Welcome to Common Magic, your common perspective from a casual player. Today I'm bringing you to a little elf deck that I put together, so here it is. With the one drop in any necessity in any elf deck, you're going to have your Land War Elf. It's a 1 for a 1/1. Tap it, add 1 green mana. Simple, effective, works well. Again, a must have in every elf deck. Second for the mana producers would be Heritage Druid. This little guy costs 1, it's a 1/1. Tap 3 on tap elves you control, add 3 green mana to your mana pool. Okay, so the cool thing about her is the elves don't have to have been in play already. You can tap them as soon as they come into play because it's part of her ability. She doesn't require herself to tap, so works out well. The third and big daddy for the mana producers would be Elvish Archdruid. Costs 3, so he's a little more expensive, but he's a tooth 2. Pumps the other elf creatures, not this guy, not himself though. He pumps the others. You tap him, add 1 green mana to your mana pool for each elf you control. Big mana producer. Okay, he's going to produce a crap load of mana because you're going to have numerous amount of elves out at any given time. Your next pumper, because again elves are small, you need to have a ton of them out there and make them as big as possible, as quickly as possible, would be your Bramblewood Paragon. I know what you're thinking. This guy himself does not pump, but when the creatures come into play, they do come into play with a +1/+1 counter, considering most of these, with the exception of those first 3 right there, are going to be elf warriors. So they're going to come into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. See? Now the key part is right here. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from him. If you could find another way of giving him trample, excuse me, then if you can find another way of giving him a +1/+1 counter on it, they will get trample as well, as long as he is out on the floor, on the field there. Okay. Next one is Imperious Perfect. This is a global pumper. Okay, for your side. Other elves you control get +1/+1. Now remember that it's other elves, not him. So he is not a 3/3. Other elves you control get +1/+1. The cool part is you tap it and you put a 1/1 green elf warrior token into play. Okay, so essentially you tap it, you're going to throw in a 2/2 because other elves get +1/+1. Now, if you have that Bramblewood Paragon out, like we talked about earlier, they're also going to get a +1/+1 counter and have trample. Okay, he costs 3, so it's a second turn drop. Not bad. Next one here is the big pumper. The global pumper, again for your side, is Georgia Warcaller. Okay, cost 1. He's a 1/1 with multi-kicker. So you pay 2. And he comes into play with +1/+1 counter for each time you kicked it. Okay. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1 for each counter on him. So kick him as many times as you can. Trust me, mana, again, not a problem with those top 3. Those top 3 are going to produce crap loads of mana. I'm talking about crap loads of mana. So there's no reason for him not to come out with 5 counters on him, giving all your elves +5/+5. Now, if he comes into play, even if you don't have enough to kick him, let's say you drop him second turn, but you have a Bramble one out, he comes into play with a +1/+1 counter. Again, pumping all of them up together. Now, these next elves that I have, and the other 3 elves I have, are what I consider to be role elves. Okay, they're just role players. They're not key aspects to it, but they help move the deck along. These guys are not afraid to lose, and they're expendable. Okay, first one being Essence Warden. Whenever another creature comes into play, you gain 1 life. Now, that doesn't mean just for you. Whenever a creature comes into play in general, you're going to gain 1 life. Now, if you can get it out early, again, elves are going to be flying in and out. So you're going to be looking at tons of life. If you're playing another aggro deck, another little weenie deck, where creatures are coming in and out, man, she is going to pump you up huge. But she is going to be a target, which is good because it takes away from you. It takes away from other elves that you have. Next one is Nattle Sentinel. You see that? Okay. He doesn't untap during your untap step, but that's not a problem. Whenever you play a green spell, you untap him. Cost 1 for a 2/2. Elf Warrior. Remember, Elf Warriors. Okay. So you pay 1, you bring him out, you tap him so you can use him for the Heritage Druid or whatever you need to, or just attack. You play a green spell afterwards, whatever it may be. Maybe it's another elf you play. He untaps, so now after you've attacked, you have a blocker. Or after you've used him for mana with the Heritage Druid, you can untap him and attack. So he's key. He's cool, but again, you don't mind losing him. The last guy here, Nicias Chosen. Let the focus a little bit there. Okay. The cool thing about this guy is whenever he would go into your graveyard from the battlefield, he goes into the bottom of your library instead. Now he does cost 2 for a 2/3, so he's a little bigger. He can hold his own, but he's not afraid to die. Okay, and he's key because you also have Nisia, Ravine, whatever her name is. Okay, I don't know if it's some focus yet. Let's see. There we go. She's a planeswalker. You add 1, you get to look for Nicias Chosen and put him into the battlefield. So let's say you block with Nicias Chosen. He dies. You bring him back into play the next turn. Okay. You can also gain 2 life. So again, if you're in life trouble, which can happen, but if you're in a situation where life is becoming kind of scarce, kind of hard to hold on to, with her, you'll be able to pump yourself up. Now I only run 3 spells. Okay, I have 6 spells total, but there are 3 different cards. And the first one is Harmonize. Harmonize is simple. It just says draw 3 cards. It costs 4. Now keep in mind, mana again is not an issue here. Elves in hand are the issue. You want to make sure your hand is fully stocked at all times if you can. So with Harmonize, it's a good way to refill your hand. Refill your elves, refill your pumpers, refill whatever you can. Okay. The next one I roll with is Elvish Promenade. Cost 4. Add 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens into play for each elf you control. Now again, with the Bamblewood, they come into play with a +1/+1 counter on it, or with the Heritage Druid and the Imperious Perfect, they get +1/+1. So you're really looking at dropping big creatures when they fall. Potentially they can be 2/2, 3/3s with trample, depending on the elves you have out. The last one here is a cool pumper. His name is Strength of Tajuru, I think his name. I'm butchering the names, I'm pretty sure, but okay, he costs 2 and X, multi-kicker. Choose target creature, then choose another creature for each time this guy was kicked, and put X +1/+1 counters on him. Now remember I told you, if we can get counters on these creatures and Bamblewood Paragon is out, whether he's out or not and he comes in later, if they have the counter on him, they still get the same ability. They'll still get trample. And also keep in mind, if you can pump the Georgia Warcaller, that Georgia Warcaller will essentially pump the rest of these elves together. So those in tangent become a huge success. Okay, now with this, you're going to also need 20 land. Okay. I got 20 forests, simple basic land from Zendikar. They're fun looking lands. And I also roll with about 15 of these guys here, these elf warrior tokens. Again, they're just to keep a visual on how many tokens you're throwing out there. So this elf deck together cohesively works really well. It works pretty well together, and it's strong. Don't be afraid to let the elves die, though. Remember, your key elves are going to be your mana producers and your pumpers, your Elvish Archdruid, your Imperious Perfect. Fun elves to have, your Nicias Chosen, your Warden. And what you want to do is pump them. Pump them, get them big, and swing. Now, it's pretty small in comparison, but I do have multiples of each one, obviously. But again, for me, I don't want to have too many big cards. We're going to be doing things with this channel, so stay tuned. Remember, it's common magic, common perspective from a casual player.